This video will explain how to factor and find the zeros of the following cubic function. We know it's cubic because it has the 3 as the exponent here, as the highest exponent on any variable. Okay, so our goal for this is to use synthetic division to identify one of the zeros and then be able to write the quotient in a quadratic form that we can then factor by grouping. So in order to identify one of the zeros using synthetic division, we need a list of numbers to start with to try to narrow it down. We're going to look at the constant here, 8, and I usually just look at all the factors of 8. So what times what gives me 8? That would be 1 and 8, 2 and 4. Okay, so our list of possible zeros here are plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 4, and plus or minus 8. And I'm doing the plus or minus because we are not sure whether it's going to be a positive or a negative version of one of these numbers. Next would be to do synthetic division. So let's just start with 1. And then I'm grabbing the coefficients from this function up here. So this would be 1, -1, -10, and -8. Okay. So our process of synthetic division is bring down the first number, and then we're multiplying by the number in the box. So this is our potential zero. We don't know if it's a zero until we do synthetic division, and we're looking to see if the remainder is zero. But we're always going to multiply by that number in that box there. So 1 times 1 would give me 1. So I'm going to put that 1 under the next number and add. -1 plus 1 gives me 0. Now I'm multiplying that number 0 by the number in the box again. So 1 times 0 is 0. And adding gives me -10. Multiply again by 1 would give me -10, and add would give me -18. So this does not equal 0, which tells me that 1 is not a 0. From here, let's try -1 using those same coefficients, 1, -1, -10, and -8. Bringing down the first number, 1, -1 times 1 is -1. Adding, we get -2. Multiply, we get 2. Add, we get -8. Multiply by that -1, we get +8. This is going to give us a remainder of 0, which is going to tell us a lot of things. Now, I do want to caution and make sure that everybody that's doing this, make sure you are very careful with all these negative signs being multiplied and then added or whatever. Okay, so what do we know from this? We know that because our remainder is 0, the number in the box is an actual 0. So -1 is a 0 of this function. If -1 is a 0, that is telling you what the x value is. If you want to find the factor, you're going to set this equation equal to 0. So we're just moving the 1 over, and we get x plus 1 equals 0, and x plus 1 is a factor. The other thing this synthetic division is telling us is the quotient. So 1, -2, -8 is going to be my coefficients for my quotient. Now, how do I come up with the variables for this? It comes from 1 degree less than the function you started with. So we started out with an x cubed. 1 degree less than that would be x squared. And then you're going in descending order. So x squared, x, and then just the constant. So we don't need this little 1, and we have x squared minus 2x minus 8 as our quotient. Now, all of this is going to allow us to rewrite the function. So we're going to rewrite the function as the first factor that I got, x plus 1, and then the quotient, so x squared minus 2x minus 8. Okay, now what I would suggest at this point, we are looking for the factored form, but we already know one of the factors. So I would go down here and say one of the factors is for sure x plus 1, just so we don't forget it while we're trying to factor by grouping this quadratic. Now we're going to factor this by grouping. So x squared plus blank minus 8. Then we're doing a times c. A times c is -8, and I'm looking for a b of -2. So the factors of -8 would be 1 and 8, 2 and 4, similar to our list up here. 2 and 4 is going to give us -2, but we need the 4 to be negative because -4 plus 2 gives us -2. So I'm actually going to put the -4 first, but it really doesn't matter. If you want to put the 2x first, that's fine. Okay, we've got our 4 terms, so now we're going to group. In the first group, I have an x in common, so I'm dividing by x for each term. X squared divided by x is x, and -4x divided by x is -4. In the second group, I have a 2 in common. 2x divided by 2 is x, and negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. So we are basically at our factored form here. We've got our x plus 2, and then our x minus 4. Remember, we're only writing this once. And these are our other two factors. So this is going to give us our factored form. Let me fix that. Okay, so this is our factored form. How do we find our zeros? Well, we're just setting each one of these equal to 0. So x plus 1 equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0, and x minus 4 equals 0. Solving each one of those, we get our zeros to be -1, -2, and 4. So this would be the factored form and the zeros of this function.